Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Gas is on the Right. No, he's got a chance to win the race.
I think that might have been like one of the cleanest hits I've ever seen in a NASCAR fight.
Hendrick. Yeah, the back. Oh, into the wall hard goes Ryan Blaney.
And he finally came to a stop, and it was just dead silent.
I said this last week, and I'm going to keep reiterating it. Live with the decisions you make, drive by the decisions you make. Don't change up your style, but also just don't be dumb.
Okay, I'm good.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Gas is on the Right, COTA edition. First road course of the year, guys. More of a battle of attrition than anything else, with a lot of right turns, a lot of left turns. It was 21-turn road course there at COTA in Austin, Texas, Circuit of the Americas. They race F1 there as well. And something interesting they noted on the broadcast, about 1,400 times of shifting. So multiple times throughout each turn in the race. And I tell you what, we had some tempers out there in the Texas heat in this early spring road course, week 6. So let's roll right into it, you guys.
Well, that's a lot of shifting. That's like driving home from Atlanta from
Alan.
Oh, don't even, dude.
Anytime we go to
traffic
Atlanta,
this
Alan
week
drives
has
my car.
worn my leg out on the way to work.
here. Imagine going 100-something miles an hour.
Yeah, you know how people talk about the arm differences from a different style thing? That's my legs right now, my left to my right leg. It is absolutely worn slap out. So, but yeah, a lot of shifting. The good thing for them though is in the Cup cars, it is a sequential shifter, not a H pattern like traditional style. So, to shift up, it's up. To shift down, it's down. So a little bit easier than having to. You don't money shift it into second going to fourth and absolutely just blow a car up, but you still can if you just pull it back on accident. So, but yeah, a lot of shifting.
Sorry, a little tired today. Well, William Byron completely dominated this past week. Won the pole and the race. He's the first driver with multiple wins 3 years in a row.
I'm trying to remember who picked him as their way too early champion.
Was it one of us?
Oh yeah, it was one of us.
Let's see.
Hey, Daniel, good
It was
pick again.
you.
Yeah.
Of course.
We should have probably just guessed that off the rip. But
I know. By the way,
Back there and asked the question.
yeah,
You guys are like, I don't know who did one of us pick.
You can see what we remember from previous weeks.
yeah, we're quite inept with our past selves. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that we said last year. He was in the championship for last year as well. Just off to a dominant start. That 24 team with Rudy Fugle on the pit box, they are firing on all cylinders again. And if they don't hit a summer slump like that's kind of been in years past, I think he's got a chance to make a run at the regular season championship as well. So I'm just gonna have to see how he pushes through, getting through that midsummer after Charlotte.
In front points? Let's see.
Well, he's kind of had a early season slump after his Daytona win, really, and it's just now kind of picked back up because he's got 2 wins. But what, he's 5th or 6th in points?
He is 6th in points. I was actually just looking that up.
37 back.
I mean, he's right. He's right there. He has the potential.
Yeah, well, it's still early. What was this, race number 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, this is when the season's getting good and started.
Yeah, we've got to see everybody's stuff at this point.
6th of the way there. Yeah.
So with seeing
we're starting to settle in 6th of the way.
having the season as it's laid out thus far, 2 super speedway, a hybrid, mile and a half short track, and now road course.
road
We've really
course.
seen who shines where. And I mean, I think Byron would be better off if he didn't wreck out early at Bristol last week. So that would be kind of a different situation, and he would probably be closer to like 20 points back versus a 37 with finishing 35th last week.
That when he got the trash bag, or did he just spin by his own?
Trash bag was Vegas, so another bad luck.
Yeah. So that was just bad luck after bad luck after. And I think didn't he get in a wreck at Atlanta or something?
I think he got caught up in like a mid-race wreck or mid to late race, like one of those. McDowell on pit road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They both spun going to pit road. So a couple things here and there that just kind of get stuck
Yeah. Well, it
into.
seems like he's kind of got the out of his control things out of the way. Like
Yeah.
a trash bag flying onto the track
With a silver
with a
bullet.
Colorado Kool-Aid in it, ruining
Right.
your day. The Colorado Kool-Aid's been known to ruin a day or yeah. I said it right the first time. I had a little bit of a stutter. My bad.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think you're obviously pretty spot on with that. He's somebody that's reliable, that's very consistent, and he can be there when he needs to be there, and he can gain the points that he needs. So with this weekend, I think it was his 12th Cup win now. So, and he has the he has the most in the Gen 7 era out of any driver at this point. So I think it's actually 12 in the Gen 7 era.
I say some people might agree with you that the Gen 7's an error.
So
I was just gonna let you roll with it.
my my English is an error tonight. But yeah, Byron just doing Byron things. I mean, this is what we're starting to habitually expect out of him.
Yeah. If he doesn't win if he's not the first multi-race winner of the year, we're gonna suspect that something's wrong with him and Rick Hendrick needs to fire him immediately.
Wow, that was a charged statement.
Well, you know how people get. But I mean, speaking of the Hendricks Motorsports and Joe Gibbs, they are head and shoulders above the entire field right now.
Oh yeah, they're firing on all cylinders. So, and you might be able to sneak 23-11 in the back end right there, but really Gibbs and Hendrick are your two front runners out front. Out of the first 6 races, each team has 2 wins.
3 for Hendrick because Larson won.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Byron with 2.
Yeah, Suarez got the one in Atlanta, so that's the anomaly of it so far this year. But other than that, it's just been Gibbs and Hendricks.
Right.
Or Hendrick.
So, yeah, definitely above on another level with the field. Because I mean, if you look at the end of the race too, who was racing at the end of COTA this week? Just in this race, it was a Hendrick car and 2 Gibbs cars.
I always feel like when Christopher Bell has a chance to run down a leader and get the race win, it's a Hendrick car. It's either Larson or Byron. It hadn't been Elliott in a while, or Bowman. But I feel like every time Christopher Bell is running somebody down to try and win the race, it's a Hendrick driver.
It's a Hendrick
like
ship.
last year. Yeah, last year was at Las Vegas where he almost caught Kyle Larson, and then this year already at COTA where he almost catches William Byron for the win.
No, I disagree. I don't think he almost caught him. I think that was Byron running conservatively, but we can get into that later. I know it's in the podcast notes later.
Well, you brought it up, so let's get into it now.
All right, cool.
All right. So he was running conservatively, yes?
I think he was. I mean, the entire race, he was
documented.
Fairly out front. He was, what was it? At some points, he was 1 to 2 seconds ahead of everyone else.
So
I think with that, he was just running conservatively and blocking Bell. I don't think Bell had a chance to get around him.
Okay, let's look at Christopher Bell when he came out of the pits was 10 seconds back. You think
9?
You think William Byron running conservatively lost him almost 10 seconds? Well, he ended up Christopher Bell ended up finishing half a second behind him. So you think William Byron saved 9.5 seconds, and Christopher Bell was just running at his own pace, passing everybody else?
I'm not saying that Christopher Bell wasn't running at his own pace, or Byron was running at his own pace and Bell didn't catch up. It may have been a combination of the two, but I don't think that if Byron was not running conservatively, Bell would have been as close as he was.
I don't know. I think
I
Christopher
will
Bell was the
say
only
when you
person
have
that
that
had anything
rabbit,
for Byron all day. Mhm.
I agree with that, but I will say when you have that rabbit, you can run a little faster. And Bell is honestly or Byron's honestly not trying to not make a mistake.
Yeah, he's
Is
just hitting all
half of
his
that raw
marks.
speed? But I would say, yeah, Bell had raw speed and something for him, but I don't think the 24 would ever let him get to him.
Mm-mm.
Except
He might have
he
got.
got a half
I think
second.
he had
I
power
think the
to
closest he got was a
He.
take
half second.
it to him.
I think if Ty Gibbs would have just let him go,
Mhm.
he would have got to him. But Byron was saving his stuff. To where once he gets to him,
He can just go
at
again.
how many? At what was it? 20-something laps that Byron was saving his stuff compared to Bell running as hard as he could for 20 laps.
That was
You know.
my point, is like you have Bell running as hard as he can and Byron
Yeah.
had backing
And
up.
no, I wasn't saying Bell was going to pass Byron. I didn't think that was going to happen. But it just seems like every time he's chasing somebody down for the lead at the end of a race, it's a Hendrick
Mhm.
driver.
It does. It does
Funny
seem
enough,
to be a
it's
trend.
a good coincidence.
So, but yeah, I mean, like we said, I think there was no taking that race from Byron unless Byron just made a
Mm-mm.
mistake,
Mm-mm.
I think
and
Byron.
he'd have had to. Gibbs, I 100% believe Gibbs just moved over. At that point, it's like he's got a faster car, let him go.
Yeah, but he
And
did hold him up for 2 laps.
but even with those 2 laps, I think he would have got, like you said, he would have got to him, but I think Byron would have just drove off.
Mm-hmm.
So and drove back out to like a 2-3 second lead, and then just went back into conservative mode while Bell's still driving the wheels off the car. I mean, they showed him at
Mm-hmm.
one point in like I think in the carousel, just sideways coming through the carousel
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to catch him,
And you see Byron coming through there just smooth. And then
just
here's Bell.
cruising. So, well, do we want to let's talk a little bit more about Bell while we're here, because he was quite the storyline in and of himself this weekend.
Both Kyles.
Yeah, it was a bad day to be a Kyle if Christopher Bell was around.
Ain't that the truth? So I got a little clip here that we can look at of one of those incidents, and let's break it down a little bit because this one sparked some post-race comments. Just dumped.
Yeah, he drove in entirely too deep.
Yeah.
Like,
So
way too deep. He was like 4 or 5 car lengths back.
Mm-hmm.
well, I know somebody that definitely wants to talk about this. So I will let you just go ahead and dive into it and dive into those post-race comments as well.
So this happened in stage 2, right? I forget exactly which lap. Happened in the second stage. Am I wrong? 99% sure.
Sounds
Anyone?
about right. I don't remember for
Okay.
sure where it was. I think it was late stage
I
2 or
forget
early
exactly
stage
where it
3.
was, but I know it was not like anywhere towards the end of the race. So you have Bush get out of his car and he actually goes over to Bell and he gets in Bell's face. One thing I found very funny is everyone always talks about how much of a baby face Bell has. In all honesty, he looked like a kid getting scalded right then.
Oh, yeah. He was like, sorry, Dad.
I'm so sorry. But you can't really hear what Bush says at the beginning, but you see him and he's like, that's 2 races in 3 years, which last year Bell did something similar at COTA. And
I think he said that's twice and there won't be a third time.
see, I heard that he said that's 2 races in 3 years. And I was like, okay. But He was like, I respect you more than that. I race you clean, something along those lines. Have I ever wrecked you? And Bell was like, no. He goes, well, it's effing coming.
Guns drawn. So, Daddy Bush has spoken.
Hey, it's
Do you think he
very
actually gets him back?
yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's Bush. See, it's been a
Bush
minute
has the memory of
since
an elephant. Like it's not. It's going to be like Matt. I don't think it'll be anything like Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano, 2017. But
I mean, Martinsville's coming up next week.
Martinsville is
You don't
I
know.
wouldn't want to be around them.
With the way the short track program's going to RCR, Kyle Busch might be in one of those Matt Kenseth situations to where he's running around 3 laps down and Christopher Bell's leading the race and he just decides.
yeah. I mean, there's a good shot. But I do see. It's coming. It's not going to be a.
It may not be this week. It may be here in a few weeks, but I think we're going to see something come
Oh,
out
I
of
think it's
that.
going to be this
Because
week.
one thing about Bush is he also keeps his word.
Oh no, he did say the thing about respecting Christopher Bell. And I think if Christopher Bell handles the situation right before they get back to the racetrack and be like, look, you're right. I'm sorry. You know, because you could tell that Christopher Bell does have a lot of respect for Kyle Busch because he was like, I messed up. I'm gonna
I'm
take
going to
this.
text him later this
You know,
week. I
Right.
did
yeah.
see
Well,
him
you
say
could.
that.
He didn't even try and argue it or fight back or anything. He's like, I made a mistake. I'm gonna let you say what you need to say. Please don't hit me. You know.
That is kind of
So,
what his face was reading during the
yeah.
entire
He's like,
encounter.
I'm about to get
I think he'll
like
be okay.
decked.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Kyle will do
See,
anything. I think Christopher and him will handle it
I think
during
So-
the
I guess when you look at it
during
from
the
that
week.
perspective, it's a coin flip, but I think that there will be something.
well, where my mind goes with that, and the reason that I think there will be something is it's not like Bell just moved him a couple times. I mean, he just absolutely spun him. And if it was like he just pushed him out of the racing groove, like through the S's or something, I could believe that that would be a little more something of just like, let's have a conversation. Don't do it again. We're good. But I see at least there's going to be something of, it's not going to be egregious in my opinion. I don't think it'll be like a 2012 truck race Kyle Busch or a '08 Richmond Kyle Busch. It may be an '08 Richmond Kyle Busch, but I think it's gonna be more of like he gets to his bumper
Yeah, we're
and
at
he just
Richmond.
moves them.
Oh, wow.
We are in
So-
Richmond.
Winkadink. I don't know. I think Kyle Busch at this point in his career is skilled enough to wreck Christopher Bell without wrecking Christopher Bell. You know what I mean?
I feel like I agree with Alan. I don't think it's going to be something big enough where, like he said, like the truck series thing where he put both of them out. I don't think he's
Mhm.
gonna wreck himself as well as Bell, but there's
Well,
definitely gonna be
that's
a
the perks of
rocket.
paying for your own equipment. You can just go out there and destroy it and be like, who cares? I got to pay for it.
Where's your championship
There's a perk.
now?
So, but no, there's definitely something coming. Richmond's very fitting. Kyle Busch has history there of wrecking people's drivers that they like more than others, which I don't know where Bell falls on the spectrum. I think he's kind of underrated in my opinion, but still. Just
Very
watch your
underrated.
rear quarter panel.
He's
I guess
he's such a clutch driver. Like every year in the playoffs, he's quiet all year, wins a race, gets in, stays quiet, and then come playoff time, you'd think he's LeBron James, qualifying on the poles, winning stages, winning races to advance when no one thinks he's going to advance. He's a clutch
Mhm.
driver.
I mean, look at the NASCAR documentary. They didn't plan on putting him in it.
Yeah.
So he gets it done when he needs to get it done.
one last opinion that I have. While I was kind of raised in NASCAR, I was not around or could remember the whole like Bush villain era that's going on with like Hamlin right now. I don't remember any of that. And it's been a minute since I've seen Bush that fired up. It kind of gives me hope that the old Bush may be back.
We'll have to see.
I don't know. I can't. I think for that Kyle Busch to come back out, he's gonna have to have race cars like that Kyle Busch had, and he's not getting those race cars.
Well, I don't think me and Alan were talking about this, and I was like, why does he like? I get why you would care so much, but like people have wrecked Bush in the past few years, and he hasn't retaliated like that. Like he hasn't gone up and gotten in their face. Why this time? Why this race? Why this driver?
It's like your
And
dad being disappointed in you.
I know, right?
That's
Yeah.
basically like what it was. It's
Well,
like I
Alan
raised
brought
you
up a good
better.
point. Is he was like, Bush has had a lot of frustrations this year already with his pit crew, and then the finish at Atlanta. Like he wanted to finish second, and he said it. He was like, "Look, he just got the draft, and I came in third." There's been setbacks all season for him, so maybe this one spin was like
I mean, he was
a
putting together a good day too. Stage points.
I mean, he still finished
yeah,
top
he was
10.
putting together a good day, and I think maybe this was just a tipping point for
I
him.
think he had a top 5 car.
He had
So,
a really good one. And then
I
Bell
mean,
went and did that.
he had to drive through the field twice, basically. So, but yeah, no, like you said, and like you and I had talked about, it's like I think it's just a tipping point of frustrations. They build up and bottle up over time, and then here we are,
I
ready
mean, you
to
never know.
take out Baby Bell.
That may be an open door for the old Bush to come back. We may see something that we only saw like in the mid to late 2000s.
Hey, I like aggression,
Hey, come on.
so
I love aggression. I love tensions. Here for the drama, always.
mhm. Well, moving on a little bit.
I'll tell you who's
Oh,
got a little bit of drama constantly is I don't know what Ricky Stenhouse has against. We talked about it last year during our COTA episode. I don't know what Ricky Stenhouse has against foreign drivers, but
for real.
Kobayashi's
Coda,
back, and
Indy,
Kobayashi goes back around off the hood of Stenhouse.
Mhm.
yeah, and it was just as egregious as the year before, just as egregious as Indianapolis last year.
Yeah, I always see the reels of Ricky Stenhouse spinning all the foreign drivers, and then after he won the uh, fall or summer Daytona race, he was like, "America, 77 or 1776, we're the champs." And I'm like, "Damn, yeah, wreck them, put them in the wall."
Yeah, no, I don't know what it is, but he always seems to find their bumpers. I mean, anywhere that we go, that there's a foreign driver on track, he finds the bumper. And Kobayashi nest twice now, and like twice they were both not even remotely needed, necessary in any format. So I saw something about Kobayashi's post race and about talking about it, but I don't remember exactly what it was. I know
Mm.
it was talking about like if he was coming back to race this year, and I would say if he does, just make sure you don't see a 47 or an Irish Spring Kroger car coming. Just go ahead and move out of the way.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Well, with this race, moving kind of away from, all the aggression this past weekend, we did have a clean race with no natural cautions. Let's have a round of applause. Um, this is the first time since 22 Road America that has happened.
Yeah, I think this race was what, like they said, it was 45 minutes shorter than last year's COTA.
Really?
It's a pretty
I
big
didn't.
jump right there.
Yeah, there wasn't 30 overtime finishes to where everybody was just crashing the crap out of each other.
Just tearing up every single race car that you have with you and that's on track. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
I
will
mean,
say,
moving the restart zone, it helped.
mhm.
And I mean, they were still able to dive dive in there pretty deep, but it wasn't chaotic. They were able to get through there clean. We
Well,
didn't have
it was like 16 to
15
20
restarts in
cars
a row.
versus 30 to 36 cars diving. So, I mean, it makes it a
Mhm.
little bit easier for that too, to where like you're not 3, 4 wide and getting spun in the next row back from somebody in front of you. So,
Well,
and
that's what
then,
last year they were 6 wide, 6 rows deep, and you're like, "That's not gonna work," and it never
yeah,
worked, you know? And they just kept going and going and going, and eventually people that were in the back were in the front, and then people that were in the front were in the back, and then it changed again and again and again and again, and then finally, they were like, "Alright, this is ridiculous." Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that race is still just like I still have a bad taste in my mouth from that race, but
Well, this
this one
definitely
made
cleaned
up
it up a
for it.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to really see strategies play out. You got to see the runs. You got to see the fuel runs. Tires obviously weren't that big of a factor this weekend,
Not
but
as much.
it was refreshing, especially from like a couple things that we have seen. And obviously the things that we always see. Thank you, Daniel Harper, with
That's
Keselowski going for the spin cycle
Brad
again.
Keselowski spinning. Eventually, Maytag or Whirlpool or somebody is going to sponsor him, and his car is going to look like a washing machine because he's on the spin cycle at those road courses.
Yeah. But um yeah, I mean, it was just nice to see a fresh, clean race. Obviously the no cautions, you want to see some shakeup, but you also want to see the deserving drivers win. So while overtime finishes are fun, I think there's a place for them. Road courses not as much, especially somewhere like COTA where you can be running 10th place all day, dive bomb because you're getting that full straightaway speed, and then all of a sudden you're top 5, top 3. And I would rather see the deserving drivers that really put in the effort to be up there all day, get the win. And that's what we got to see this week. So
Mhm.
very refreshing, especially with us going to a beat and bang short track next week. Really, the next 2
I don't
weeks.
even think Richmond's really a beat and bang short track. Martinsville will be. Richmond will kind of. Richmond always has a way of spreading out pretty good, but
We'll
yeah,
see if they
that's
can get that
what.
high line working again this year.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That's what I did like I did like that the race ran clean though, and there were no cautions because you got to see 3 different strategies. There's people that were on the race win strategy that
Mhm.
pitted before the stage points strategy that stayed out to the end of the stage, and then Christopher Bell was on and Michael McDowell until his power steering broke. And kudos to him for finishing that race. I mean, I know he
Oh
pulled on the
man.
pit road at one point for like 2 or 3 laps and just had to rest, and then he was like, they showed on the in car that he was doing like this on the in car camera, and then he'd be like, "All right, I'm going back out, boys," and would go back out and ran until he couldn't again. What a hoss! And
Yeah.
then, so him and Christopher Bell were on the same strategy, which really led to the charge you saw at the end from Christopher Bell from the fresher tires.
Right.
So, in that aspect of it, if you're not just like they're getting spread out and we're only going to get 2 cautions in this race because they're not being crazy and wrecking each other egregiously. If you look at it from a purist standpoint of you're analyzing the race beyond the cautions and restarts and stuff, that was a pretty good race, you
Well,
know?
with that, you don't have to like be looking at lap times either. You can
Mm-mm.
just be looking at how the strategy plays out because it's obviously at a road course, you pit 2 lap or 3 to 5 laps before the end of the stage, you're going to get that track position, or you
Hmm.
wait till stage break and go for points if you're in that top 10 position to gain some points or gain a playoff point, like Hamlin did. Hamlin,
Yeah,
he finished 14th, but he's got 10 extra points and a playoff point this week.
he knew that he wasn't going to win the race. So why not stay out and get some stage points? Because you already won a
Yeah,
race, so you just need those points for later in the year.
and talk about just
Right.
a refreshing change.
Hmm.
I feel
Now,
very called out by Daniel right now.
why is
Oh, were
that?
you one of those people?
I'm a mixture. I will say this was something else me and Alan were talking about is I am a purist in the fact that I respect the strategy. I feel like you have to have strategy and driver talent to win a race, but the wrecks also test everything. It shakes up everything. I feel like wrecks are necessary. I'm gonna be honest, green flag runs kind of bore me a little bit. Throw a wreck in there every once in a while.
Alan, you need to show her a YouTube clip of Tony Stewart complaining about fans wanting wrecks.
I'm not saying I feel like they are a necessary evil. That's all I'm saying.
What's your opinion?
So, well, a little tension in the room.
I know, I was about to say, I feel extremely ousted right now. I respect the strategy. I am a purist when it comes to that. All I'm saying
So,
is every once in a while somebody's spinning.
little sprinkle in there. Which I
Yeah.
will say this week we would see like I think it would have been better if NASCAR would have been able to show us more of those spins too. Because like all of a sudden they'd hear about a spin and then we wouldn't know where, when, what, why, how for a couple minutes, couple laps, and then we're back in it and like, oh, well this is what happened, and now they've kind of moved up a little bit. So oh, Daniel, your Daniel is on the same page. Some
Yeah, it's. I
fancy
mean, it's
info.
definitely not like back in the day where it'd be like caution, debris, and be like, "Where's the debris?" You know,
Yeah, I will
uh,
say
Have
they're
someone
definitely
on
a
my
lot better.
side.
they got rid of those phantom cautions after Carl Edwards quit because of it.
So,
But
well,
there was an issue at the road course, and that was how they did their track limits. Alan, you want to start us off on that?
Yeah, I was gonna say start us off.
I'll start us off with it. So, the biggest place and really the only place that there were track limits was in the S's. So turns 4 through 6, and you
Mhm.
really just couldn't get off the turtles. Um, you couldn't get onto the rumble strip. You couldn't be all in the green or red, depending on what color it was. You had to have at least a tire or two outside of it. So the issue that in line with that is if you got pushed out of the racing groove in 2 and 3, you were screwed.
Mhm.
You were screwed,
I mean, you
and we
saw
saw it multiple
Chase Elliott
times.
get loose,
Chase
and
Elliott had a
there's
top 10
nothing.
day, and
Yeah.
they petitioned that to NASCAR, and NASCAR said no. But there was also the other thing is there was no net gain. He didn't gain time.
Hmm.
He didn't gain anything along those lines. So,
Yeah, didn't gain time or spots. He lost time. Like
mhm,
that's what it was really getting loose, having to chase it across the racetrack and save it. That's a penalty in it of itself. It's not like he gained any speed or anything, that he
yeah, and
penalized
like
himself by getting loose.
that's
Like, why
like
are you going to make him drive all the way down pit road?
yeah, and you look at like year one of the Gen 7, the next gen. If you had a loose lug, it was 4 race suspension. It's down to a 2 race
Hmm.
now. Or if you lose a wheel, it's down to a 2 race now. 2 race suspension for the crew chief and a crew member. So, like NASCAR, a pass through penalty for cutting the S's in that type of format, like if you're just straight shotting it down the middle and taking it all out, yes, there's a competition advantage there. But if it's something along those lines, a pit road pass through at pit road speed, that essentially ruined the day. And it's, I think it needs to be a punishment fitting of the crime. So, but
It
I'll
needs
get
to be
into
a
what
stop and
my
go or
What
opinion
should be
something
the
is.
like that,
punish?
So I think Emily, you have a quote from something. I can't remember what it was from.
From something.
Elton
Yes,
Sawyer.
Yes.
yes, Elton
No,
Sawyer.
one question I just had is what type of punishment do you think would be fitting?
I would like to see us go to like an IndyCar F1 car strategy and track limits where it's a two strike. You have
Okay.
you have two opportunities per race where it can happen, and it can't be egregious, so you can't purposely cut the S's. So like if I'm in third and I want to go to first, I can't just zip right
But
through.
the S is right there. Yeah.
But where it's something like a Chase Elliott incident, you have two strikes. And that would count as a strike because it shouldn't happen more than twice. So, and
Yeah,
that's
well, I
where
mean, I don't even think that what Chase did would count as a strike because it's not. That's one of those like he didn't do it on purpose. he got loose and saved his car. That's the penalty of it in itself. But if he cut the S's by like 2 inches, be like, hey, first warning. That's when you get into your warnings,
Well,
is when you're just cutting it by a few inches, because that happened to a couple other people and their day's over.
yeah.
I was
Well,
gonna
that's
say
where
that's
I'm
when
saying,
Elliott's
like,
day was over. So was my chances.
that makes it to where you're not like doing such a out of pocket call, because Elliott only got penalized one time for it, and it was that time.
Mhm.
So he's obviously not trying to cut the S's. So that one strike penalty, it would have been nothing because he still had the extra strike, and he would have never even used it at that point. So adopting something like F1 or Formula One with a strike system, and the third strike is where you actually get the penalty, because then that takes away any gain or advantage that you had, and it takes the opinionated side out of it, of like, well, we can appeal to NASCAR because we yeah we went through, but we were loose. Well, you know what? It's just a strike. It is what it is. You're not getting penalized this time. Don't let it happen again. Don't put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your third strike penalty?
Either a
Pass
stop and go
through
penalty or a
or
pass through, but it would depend
Yeah, I feel
on
like
the course.
yeah, I feel like COTA's big enough to where you could probably designate like 2 or 3 areas for your stop and go penalties. Because there's
Mhm.
enough paved runoff areas to where it's like, here, you stop here, you cut the course in the S's, you stop here or something. But if it's something egregious, a 30-second penalty or drive down pit road or something, like if you're just a blatant course cut,
Right.
obviously that warrants that kind of penalty. But I don't know. Obviously, I
I
think
mean,
everybody kind of agrees that that was unnecessary
Yeah.
to do that.
so, well, Emily, I'll let you get into that quote now from there.
I was gonna say, I didn't mean to get us off on another tangent. Um, so in this, it does say that NASCAR issued 40 penalties over the Cup, Xfinity, and truck races this past weekend, with additional penalties issued in practice and qualifying.
Goodness.
Just, just for shortcutting.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, how many people got 3 penalties?
I mean,
Nobody.
I don't have that data.
Yeah, no one got 3 penalties. It's not it's not a storyline if they
Yeah.
give the warnings. A couple people got 2, so that, I mean, if they decided to do,
A third time, then
yeah. So
Right.
if they decide, or if they just decided to do 1 strike and then you get a penalty, then there'd be a less than half of 40 penalties. I mean, that's just overkill and ruining people's day for no reason.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you either go to a strike or a stop and go. So one
yeah,
or
if
the
you're
other.
not going to do
But
strikes, just do a stop and go penalty.
a
I mean,
30-second
that can
penalty
be, if
for
you don't,
a 10th gain is
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
I mean,
And not
even
even a
if you don't
tenth at
want to do
times.
strikes, do a stop and go penalty the first time, and then if you do it again, then do your drive through penalty. You know,
Mhm.
if that's what
So
you're not wanting to do, a strike system and be unique, I'm okay with, if you cut the S's, do a stop and go.
Right.
And then if you cut it again, then you take that pass through penalty.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do, but I've also listened to a couple other podcasts where they're like, if you don't want people to cut the tracks, put the big turtles in there. And I promise you, they're not going to get up on those,
mhm.
Right.
and let that. And then the penalty is, if you do cut the track and get up on those turtles, you got a torn up race car,
Yeah.
Have
So,
fun.
i.e. Corey LaJoy at the Indy road course trying to Dukes of Hazzard his car over the turtles and during one of those wrecks. You remember that, Alan?
oh yeah, dude, he was airborne. Like all four wheels off the ground, landing, no
Yeah, I was
stepping.
like, I saw it and I was like, just the good old boys.
So,
So, Elton Sawyer.
Yes.
He said, "We're calling balls and strikes on every lap, and that's not really what we want to be. I commend our team in the tower. I thought they did a good job, but it's way too much about us and not enough about the athletes and our teams and our pit stops and strategy and things of that nature. Some work, well, he said some work to be done, but I think it's a typo that says some work needs to be done."
So I will say this.
Yeah, I agree.
If you go
Mhm.
directly off of what the rule book stated for the track limits, it's not balls and strikes, it's just straightforward. But the fact of the matter is you are now you're going from, well, they can plead the case on this penalty. No, it should be a set thing. If you get loose, you get loose. There was only a handful of cars that got more than one penalty, right? Over the weekend.
Mhm.
So you take the balls and strikes out of it. And you literally, this is a rule. This is what happens each time that you break the rule. There's no need for there to be, well, he got loose, so you know what, we'll give him the free buy this time. But then in the cup race, Elliott does the same thing and he doesn't get that. It's a very opinionated form of that. And it also, NASCAR talks about this themselves, race manipulation. That's what it could be considered at that point.
Well,
And as much as we're saying that, he shouldn't have been penalized, if Chase Elliott wouldn't have been penalized and everybody else got penalized, oh, there's the Hendrick Motorsports bias. They didn't penalize the
Mhm.
Golden Boy Chase Elliott.
Yeah, and I'm not like
People are gonna
I'm not
gripe either
just
way.
for Chase. That's the most kind of egregious one we saw. But look at Allmendinger and
Mhm.
SVG in the Xfinity race. They both got hit, had top winning cars, winning speed all day.
Mhm.
They both got hit with track limit penalties and ended up finishing outside of the top 20.
Well,
That
SVG came across the finish line second, but because they gave him a 30-second penalty for exceeding track limits. 30 seconds. He went from second
NASCAR
place to 27th.
absolutely shit the bed.
Yeah.
I
Like,
mean,
how can they look at that and say, okay,
that's
yeah, we're
worthy of
good
30 seconds.
we're good with putting him from second place to
to 20.
27th place.
Yeah.
Yeah, they absolutely shit the bed. It's horrible.
So
So
I have a question for y'all, or I guess more of a
Mhm.
statement. So you're talking about how NASCAR needs to be more straightforward, and I've heard that a lot, and how this was too opinionated, balls and strikes, but aren't they kind of like that with any rule? Although it may be in the rule book, they kind of leave it up to interpretation.
Yeah, there's a lot of in the gray area stuff in
Yeah.
NASCAR's rule book.
So
a
with
30
that,
second penalty shouldn't be gray though.
yeah, but
But continue your
maybe a
question.
30-second
I'm sorry.
penalty was too much.
So continue. I didn't mean to interrupt your question. So go ahead.
No, you're good. So with that, do you think that, I mean, obviously, if they do that with this rule, should they do it with every rule? And if they do it with every rule, is there any rule that needs to be edited or tweaked to
I
actually stand up in a non-gray area?
I don't
Right.
know enough of the rules to give you an answer on that, to be perfectly
I'm just
honest.
kind of thinking about the controversial opinions that they have had on the rules over like the last season or so.
think a lot of those have kind of gotten ironed out more so than they were.
Hmm.
So I think
Especially after
NASCAR's
last
done
year.
after last year was a big year of changes because the first year, everybody's trying to figure out this car. I think they had obviously some things wrong. They made changes. For example, what I mentioned a minute ago, it was a 4-week suspension for the crew chief and a crew member if you lost a wheel. Well, it's down to 2 weeks now, is what they changed it to. So I I think that there's obviously work to be done here, but they've really started getting a lot of the rules ironed out to where the gray area doesn't exist as much. They're more punctual with us. They're letting us know, like NASCAR last year, they started showing what they found out if there was a penalty for something. They would show it in the garage area. You talk about Austin Dillon with I think it was the turnbuckles or something that were welded so that you could just put a wrench in there and change the camber or something like that, change the ride height. Um,
Yeah, sounds about right.
the louvers, the roof rails, that kind of thing. So NASCAR is being very transparent and they're very good at
Mhm.
this. And really, road courses, and this is really the only rule I can think of offhand that has this type of issue. The thing is, we didn't see this issue last year. So, but we also
Yeah.
didn't see anybody just straight shot in the S's. So, what was the change this year and why is the first thing that needs to be looked at. And then from there, how can we better this penalty process? I mean, again, I'm all for, I think a strike system personally is the best way to go. I don't get paid to make these decisions. So, from there, I would say even doing a stop and go area. I think that that would be another great option, but a 30-second penalty or a pass through penalty, which is basically a 30-second penalty, it
Mhm.
is ridiculously too much for not even a tenth.
Yeah. Well, my thing is like, this is my last thing that I have to say about these track limits, and then we can move on. Is that if you're going to do track limits, do track limits. Don't do, well, you can run 30 foot off the track over here on this side, but in the S's, you got to stay. You can't dip your tires off of this area. Like if you're going to do track limits, make them stay within the track limits all the way around the track. And that puts a lot, that takes a lot more skill than just burying it as hard as you can into the corner, washing off into the runoff zone, and just throttling down because you have so much runoff to where you don't have to make the corner right.
Right.
You're just taking off. It takes a lot more skill if you're going to say, all right, if so, that's my thing. Just if you're going to do track limits, do track limits and be done with it. But if you're going to, no wishy-washiness on this is where you can and this is where you can't. I think that's dumb.
No balls and strikes.
Yeah.
No opinions. It needs
Well,
to
no, I
be
mean
clear cut.
there's still I think it puts the balls and strikes if you do strike one, strike two penalty. You know, that way,
Yeah.
like Alan said, if they're like, well, we weren't loose, we want to appeal that and be like, look, it's just a warning. Who cares?
Mhm.
You know.
Right.
So it's a combination of things, but you know,
Well,
whatever.
Daniel Harper actually just gave us the best lead in to our next little thing.
mhm.
COTA ratings. So I have them right here. They got 3.31 million viewers for Sunday's Cup race, up 6% from last year. This is now the 5th straight increase for the series. Jeff Gluck's poll, was COTA a good race? 50.2% said yes.
Really
Now,
not
some
bad
notable
for a road
things he
course.
said about this.
Not
Well,
bad
some
for an
notable
all
things he
green.
said about this. He said ranks the lowest out of the 4 COTA races so far. The previous was the 2021 rain race.
Mhm.
It ranks 27 of the 32 road courses in the poll, and it's the second lowest race of this year so far, right after Phoenix. Phoenix is lower.
Maybe that was bad for a road course race. I stand
That's why I
corrected.
was like, hold on, hold on.
I don't know.
Hold
I
your
Yeah.
can't
opinion.
believe people thought this race was worse than the rain race, to where you couldn't see this far in front of you, and they were
The
just
rain race
smashing
had
in the back of
wrecks.
each other.
Hey,
The rain
here's
race
the
had
thing. It's
wrecks.
the Rex.
That's
I'm
what it
telling
is.
you,
You get away
the
from the
Rex
purism of it, it's the
not
wrecks.
the Rex not only contribute to furthering strategy, but they also just kind of make it more entertaining.
But a good note on
If
that as
not, you're
well
just
is
watching them make turns all day.
there was a
That's all I'm
6%
saying.
increase at COTA, so we are still seeing viewership bleed over and increase 6 races into the year,
Yeah, it's going
excluding
to be
Daytona.
interesting to see how these next two short tracks race compared to Bristol with the tire wear and stuff, to see if that's going to continue. The short tracks are, because after Bristol, it's like short tracks are back, baby. But now we got two in a row, to where if that tire wear is not good, we're going to be like, oh.
Mhm. We'll
And then
see.
you're going to see those ratings start to.
Starts slipping, especially into the summer.
Mhm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
well, let's lead into something a little fun right here. So there's been an ongoing joke since Atlanta of ask me after COTA. And it's maybe one question per episode or every 2 episodes. So I think Emily, you decided to listen to like 7 episodes today or 6 episodes to get all this information for us.
Yes, well, I did have a list going. I just have to give you a hard time. Someone deleted it. Not gonna name names.
Somebody also forgot to hit record last week. There's an ongoing trend here that I am the problem. Call me Taylor.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that, but all I am saying is I
Call
did
me
listen
Taylor
to 6
Swift. I am the problem.
It was so weird listening back to our podcast, I'm gonna be honest, because I kept having points I wanted to bring up, and then I was like, "Wait, we're not recording right now?"
And it's like I want to add stuff in here, but I can't. So,
So, from the Atlanta, we had Rookie of the Year, and I think all of our opinions have probably changed about Rookie of the Year since Atlanta.
What are our opinions before?
We were looking at Zane Smith.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely changed.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're all in agreement of who Rookie of the Year is this year.
At
Are
this
we?
point,
I feel like we are.
I'm going
I'm going
Hocevar.
Hocevar.
I was thinking Barry. He's
You are
starting to
going
come around.
Barry? Hmm.
Yeah.
I want a
Starting.
quick explanation on that one.
Barry?
Yeah, like why are you picking Barry over Hocevar? Just out of
He's just,
curiosity.
I just feel like he's starting to come around to, like, they're starting to drive over there at SHR. They're all starting to show speed. And I think he'll make a lot less mistakes than Carson Hocevar will. So come the end of the year, I think he'll beat him out for Rookie of the Year. Just because he's older and more disciplined. So, and they're starting to get speed more consistently. And so I think Barry.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, we'll see what they can keep up.
Second question from Atlanta was, will Todd Gilliland win in a front row motorsports car?
What was our opinions then? Or did we
Ask
not?
me after COTA. That
You
was
said ask
literally
me
it.
after COTA. That question was
Yeah,
geared to you, Daniel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that was
was.
geared towards you. Alan asked you that one.
Are we talking about this year?
I think it was in generalization that he would
Just
get a win
general.
while with front row in like the next 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. At a super speedway, it's hard to say no because anybody can win a super speedway.
Mm-hmm.
Excluding super speedways, no.
All right.
All right. The other one that had it was Phoenix. And I wanted to note this one thing is Alan held true to his word. He was extremely confident Gibbs would win COTA. And Gibbs was his pick last week.
Anyway.
That was the only thing I wanted noted. I don't know why.
He had a top car, but not a win.
He's
My
close, man.
confidence
He's
was there.
knocking on the door.
Oh yeah.
Dude, 5
He
straight top
is
fives
right there.
or top tens. 5
Yeah.
straight top tens.
The way Toyotas run at Richmond, this really, I said it 2 weeks ago. Alan said it last week, but I'm going to say it again. This week really could be his week, and we'll probably keep saying that until he wins.
Until he wins. You're gonna be
Yeah.
like, maybe this time.
But we're coming up on a stretch of really good tracks for him. So
The other
Right.
question I had to do with Toyota is, will Toyota dominate this year? Specifically named on short tracks. In regards to short tracks, but in general as well.
Oh yeah.
specifically in regards to short tracks, yes.
In general,
In general, I think it'll be a mixture of Chevy, Toyota, with the sprinkle of the occasional Ford.
the little dash here and there.
Yeah, Fords
Yeah,
are
you're probably
surprisingly
looking.
slow.
Yeah, if Ford's gonna win, it's gonna be Blaney, Logano,
Busher.
uh, Busher, maybe Keselowski. Those are the only, and McDowell at a road course or super speedway.
Mm-hmm.
But excluding like anomaly races, I think that's your four. The two Penske drivers and the two RFK drivers, I think, are the only realistic Ford wins you'd get this year,
Right. So,
barring a super speedway. Anything can
Yeah.
happen there.
And then I think one that we were talking about right before we went live was will Kyle Busch, or does he have the potential to win a championship this year? And that was from our splash and go on Busch. You never
check
know,
out
he
the
could make a
Splash and Go if
comeback.
you didn't listen to it, by the way. It's on YouTube. But as he
We
is
will
running
be
right
uploading
now,
it soon
that one's
to
live. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha. As a podcast formatted episode.
Yes. All of our
Um,
splash and goes will soon be uploaded in podcast form. So you can listen to there too.
but I think this year with the equipment and the way the RCR is right now, they got to get some things checked and balanced, or
I
it's
think they
just
need
not
to
going to
stop
be.
switching crew members. He needs to just stick with it.
Hey, we went a week without them doing it yet.
Right. I was gonna ask that because I didn't hear anybody mention that, but
Yeah, he went a week without changing crew members and he got a top 10. So
So
there you
we
go.
talked about it
they,
last week. He needs some
yeah,
consistency and had some
you'll be all right.
consistency and had a good run. Yeah.
And then he
He
got
heard
mad.
me. Yeah.
So well,
Quick little pick recap from last week. So let's see. Daniel, who did you have?
Reddick.
You had Reddick. I had everything pulled up and then it all disappeared. Sorry.
You had Chase Elliott
I
and
know I had
Alan
Chase
had
Elliott
Ty
and Alan
Gibbs.
had Gibbs.
and I win.
Yeah.
Woo! So that gets me to 3 points.
That's what I was looking for. Alan came
Daniel
in
Harper with the
third with
never say
Gibbs.
never. Blaney was winning the title this time last year. Nobody had that on their bingo card. Good point,
Besides
Mr.
Dale
Harper.
Jr.
Good point. And I agree with you with Gibbs winning before the
Thank
600.
you. Alan came in, Gibbs came in third, Reddick came in fifth, and Elliott came in. Where did he go? 16th?
16th.
16th.
Yep, 16th.
Well, that
Stupid
leaves the
pass through
picking up
penalty.
to me.
Real quick before we go into the picking, I think Alan deserves an honorable mention that out of all the picks that he's had this year, he has an average finish of 10th place. It's pretty solid.
Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Consistency right now. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna gamble on it this week. So with that gamble, I'm gonna go with the driver of the number 42 car, John Hunter Nemechek. So I'm sticking to my Toyota promise that I talked about with the short tracks. And
Before
I'm
you
gonna
broke
stick
it
with.
with McDowell at
Well, I broke
Bristol.
it with McDowell, and I almost won that one too. Funny enough, I mean,
Yeah.
still with an 11th place finish. Like, come on now. But I'm gonna go John Hunter Nemechek. I think that since Legacy has joined Toyota, they've started to step up. He's sitting what?
Oh yeah.
He's in the top
15th.
16 in points right now. Yeah, he's 15th in points. So quietly consistent right now. I think it's a solid pick, and I think that this kind of fits into his wheelhouse a little bit with how he ran with Xfinity last year. And I mean, his time's coming. His time's coming.
Yeah. The only kicker to him is he has pissed a lot of people off this year. And we're at a short track. So that's
Yeah.
the best time to pay people
We'll
back.
have fun with that one.
So it's a little bit, like I
I'm
said, wishy washy.
Yeah. Well, my pick is going to also be someone who's got some payback coming, allegedly. Christopher Bell.
I'm gonna be
That's a
honest, I'm
dangerous
kind of
pick.
shocked that you're picking him because of the Bush thing.
I think with the way the RCR cars are running, the only time they'll see each other is when he's lapping Kyle Busch. And Kyle Busch is mad, but he's not gonna when he's several laps down, he's not gonna do that. He's the type of driver that is gonna wreck you when he's competitively racing, unless you just well, I guess Christopher Bell did completely dump him. But I feel like their relationship that prior of a little like mentor stuff going on kind of helps
Mhm.
him out a little bit. But
But do you think Kyle Busch is someone who holds loyalty? I was telling Alan that. I was like, look, they're no longer cool like that. They're not on the same team. They don't have to be.
I don't know. Yeah, I think they are.
I mean, Kyle Busch is always about comeuppance.
Yeah, well, the
Telling
last
you,
time he walked over to somebody's car like that, it was Joe Logano's, and he ended up with a busted forehead. So,
hey, I'm not saying that he hasn't been wrong in the past. There's been a lot of times where Bush was wrong. But he's also a justice seeker.
So
all right, Emily, who are you picking?
I'm picking Truex for the pure fact that Alan told me that he was going to pick him and then he changed. But don't worry, I got his stats too. Fifth place average finish over 6 races with 4 top 5s and 5 top 10s.
and he's leading the regular season championship points right now.
Yeah, no, I was actually kind of shocked to
Mr.
see that.
Mr. Consistent.
Yeah. So just don't get to the playoffs or hold it through the playoffs. One of the two. Like, goodness.
Do we want to
So
do a quick top 10 of the Cup standings so far? I know we're only 6 races in, but
I was going to pick Denny, but I'm hoping that I win this week and Martinsville is next week. And I think I have a better shot of winning with Denny Hamlin next week.
I was going to pick Denny too.
Well, you better beat me this week. Because
I already
Allen's
picked
already
Denny,
used him.
so I can't use them. And that's why I'm saving Truex. So I got a home for Truex coming in a little bit. So, well, guys, let's recap the top 10. Are we doing regular season or we want to go with playoff?
I was just going to do regular season. The standings as they are right now.
All right, what we got?
Truex, Gibbs, Blaney, Hamlin, Larson, Byron, Bell, Chastain, Elliott, and Reddick.
A lot of Toyotas, a lot of Chevrolets. One Ford.
One
So
for.
say
We are seeing
you are
some fun.
completely right in your prediction.
We're seeing a little bit of fun in there though. Your top 5 are separated by just 15 points. That is a stage and a half a race, and that gap could be easily changed. So, going to be fun to watch how the regular season starts playing out. But just got to keep an eye on it. We will start keeping points tabs weekly moving forward. Now that we're actually in the season.
Throughout the entire top 10, you only have less than a 50-point difference between first and 10th.
And the max point day is 60.
3 guys. Yeah, 3 guys have a bad points day, and 3 guys have a really good points day getting stage points and stuff. And that could be a 25-point gap, you know?
Mm-hmm. Quick changes. So definitely something to keep an eye on. It's always fun when the points race is tight. So, well, guys, don't forget to follow us on all of our social medias. Keep an eye out on our YouTube channel as we got Splash and Goes out. If you haven't checked it out yet, last Friday we dropped our interview with our driver, Tyler Batsianis. So make sure to go give that a listen on Splash and Go. We will be sponsoring his Legends car. And we will talk to you guys next week post Richmond.